Most of you probably don't know that I've participated in quite a few choirs and also led a few of them, and I really like the sound of the voice, especially a cappella voices, and I tend to collect quite a few choir libraries, and I always wanted to try out the Eric Whitacre Choir by Spitfire, but I didn't know if that was for me or not, and it seems to be a little bit different. So Spitfire actually contacted me and were kind enough to give me a copy. Hi there, this is Sam with Second Tier Sound. Really nice to see you here. Now, I do want to mention before I get on with this review that I'm not sponsored by Spitfire. They did provide me with this copy so I can check it out for you, but that is not really sustaining my lifestyle. So if you want to help me out there, you can always hit a like, you can subscribe, write a comment, let other people know about it. But if you actually want to push me further so I can create more content and also create this course I'm working on, you can always become a patron, or you can just buy me a coffee. All the links are below. Thank you very much. So the Eric Whitacre Choir Library, 150 gigabyte of deeply sampled, very beautiful choir sounds. Let's take a deeper look so you know what it sounds like, how to use it, and don't skip my conclusion at the end. Alright, here it is. Let's take a look at the interface of the Whitacre Choir. It's quite a massive instrument. There's a lot going on here. But the interface is very, very simple. Now, what I like here is that it's so clear, but also that you can drag and resize the window. Now, up here, you choose all the sounds. It's a very good system. Basically, all in one gets you all the sounds. You get all the samples, all the articulations that you can find. If you want smaller selections, you do the standard, and then obviously you can choose just the longs or just the shorts or just one particular articulation. Let's then go back here and look at this interface. The expression means this is basically a volume control. So what's good about that is that you can go to 0 when you hear nothing, so you can actually work on your endings more if you want to. The modulation wheel does not go to 0, you still hear the sound when you play. The main difference is that the modulation wheel is actually changing the texture of the singers, because when you sing lower, you sing differently than when you sing loud, and so on. So we can take an example here. Very important, obviously. The more dynamic layers you have, the more advanced the choir. And here on the right side, we have, in this case, a reverb. The reverb that is built in this player, I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming it's a convolution reverb of some kind. But wait, there is more. If you click on this button here, you obviously get all the different articulations in this patch, and also a few other options. Here you see the all articulations, and here obviously there's a lot of them in this patch, so you can click further there. Here you have all the mic positions, and there are many, and then you have a few effects. You also have in options an interesting feature here which changes the sound. It's basically different kinds of layers working into the sound from neighboring notes. You can then change here to neighboring zone. That one is quite subtle, but if we go to layer +2, I hope you heard that. That sounds quite different. Different texture, different quality of the voice. And I would say that's the best way to look at this. You can make the choir sound a little bit different, wider or thinner and thicker. Okay, so let's take a look at all these articulations. Now, the 2D samples have no legatos, obviously, because everybody's singing and that's hard to do. We have a long ah, that's easy to understand, right? And then evo, it's evolution. Now, that's not always super obvious in the patch, but it basically means that it's not just a stale, long sample note. There's something going on in the voice. It changes a little bit, modulates slightly, maybe somebody's breathing. It's not super obvious, but it makes the sound more alive. You can hold these chords in for a long time and they sound interesting. Now, I was doing the modulation, obviously, so there was a swell there, but if you listen carefully, you can hear that there's small changes and wavers in the note. And then we have shorts. They have long evo, very beautiful. And then we have dynamic swells, where I don't need to use the modulation wheel myself. And it goes on, and it's really beautiful. It really sounds alive, this one. They have the same thing in and O and A and so on. And as we go on here, we also get something we call episodic, which is basically a long-held note, but where they also say things like small consonants and different sounds. Quite subtle, but that thing actually makes the chords much more interesting and alive. It's almost like they're saying something. Then they also have something that is pretty cool because it's not so easy to do on your own. They call them pitch clash. And this is a minor second. So I hold down a note and then after a while, some of the singers are changing the pitch. And then they go back. Now this is kind of cool when you hold a few notes down. Because they don't always do it at the same time, so you get an interesting effect there. And then something I first scratched my head at a little bit because I was wondering why they're doing this. And this is the pitch clash, but it's a static interval. So that means I hold down a note and I get two notes at the same time. Now this is a cool sound, but I obviously could do that myself with just playing two notes. And I get pretty much the exact same result. But what I realized was kind of cool about this, if you take, for example, this pitch clash, static, major second, now I actually get double the notes. So if I just hold down a few notes here, and it sounds really fantastic. You can create some really beautiful landscapes there. And then we also have a few effects here. Also scratch my head a little bit here because it's not that much. I just wish there were a little bit more of these. And then these. I also thought this is not the great, I mean, they sound good, but they need to be more and more dynamic layers here because you hear immediately when you hit this a few times that it's really the same sample, just different volume. There's not enough round robins here. So let's take a look then at the sopranos. The main difference here is that you get beautiful legatos. each of these sound also have the longs, meaning there's no legatos. And then also short. And then legato. Very nice, this one. But otherwise, you have pretty much the same as the 2D, the clashes and the episodic ones and the dynamic ones. And all of these work the same. So we can listen a little bit to the altos. What I like here is that this is not just, you know, the sopranos one more time as other sample libraries, other choir libraries are doing it. It's just women and men. But here you actually get sopranos and altos and tenors and basses, and they sound differently. All right, let's just briefly check out the tenors as well. And then the basses as well. Let's take a look at the mic positions as well. They are the same in whatever patch you use, and typically Spitfire you get 3 billion of them. But this is nice, you get a lot of options. I'm going to try to explain briefly here what they all mean. Close is just basically the closed mic, so you can have a closer sound. And tree is the most common way that you mic a choir actually. It usually consists of 3 different mics positioned in different places of the room. They usually call it a tree because it's built on a sort of tree that stands up. If you Google it, you will see what I mean. That's great for most cases. But you can then also get what's called ambience. So different kind of mics placed in different rooms. You get outriggers as well, mid and gallery and so on. And you just have to try all this out. What could be a little bit confusing is like, what is this then? Soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Well, that means that you can actually just take out and listen to only the tenor in the 2D patch here. And you find like, well, the tenors are a little bit loud here. Well, just drag them down. So you can then raise all these and then do your own 2D mix, which I think I've never seen anywhere else. Could be wrong about that. And then you also have 3 different mics. It's just different, you could say mixes. You have a big mix, you have a medium mix, and a small mix. I find that most cases the tree is excellent, but you do have that control, which makes this library a little bit more professional, a little bit more options. Otherwise, you can just turn off the advanced and you have this nice slider when you go up and down. And global means that if you have this on, then all of the articulations will have this mic position. If you start to mess with all of these different mic positions, your memory will start to go up because more samples are being loaded. So let's check out this vibrato control here. It's a very subtle control, but it also adds to the realism. So if you have all the vibrato on, which it is by default, you get a little bit more wavering in the sound. If you have headphones on, you might hear this. If you turn this off though, by dragging the mouse down, this is tricky, it took me a while to understand, you don't get that wavering. If you have the vibrato on, it's not actually, I would say, vibrato like you think in a voice. Sorry about the singing there. It's more of the natural wavering that the voice has. No singer is singing straight, perfectly on all the time with the same volume. So that's what I think it's better to have on. But if you don't like that effect, you can turn it off and it's more straight. But there's even more than that. And this is really brilliant. It's just called the Evolutions library. And what this is basically the same sounds, but in a different way. This is sort of a 2D patch, but you can randomly load in any samples you want. If you work with the Evo systems on other libraries in Spitfire, you know exactly what this is. But if you're new to this, these actually represent different places on the keyboard. So these are different sections of the piano, right? And all of these spots are actually different kinds of samples. If I scroll up and down here, you will see it says here special, clashes, episodic, rhythmic, simple, clashes, episodic, and so on. These are the different articulations that are in the library. But you can say then that everybody is playing a specific sample, or you can have different parts of the keyboard having different samples. And then you can also mix with the volume and you want to pan them if you really want to go all in. But the cool thing about that is that you can take the arrangement that I played before and just take one patch and get a pretty cool result. Listen to this. So how does this work then? Well, if you know what you want, you can just go in and select the different dots here. But they have some fun presets here. Feeling Lucky is just randomly choosing, now you don't see them all, but you see the different dots if I scroll up and down, choosing different samples for different regions. If you pay attention, there was different things, there were some clashes going on there. If you don't like that, you can go to simple, which means that it's basically going to be something that it's always workable. It's not going to do so many crazy things. Dynamic is fun though, then it's just usually in different swells. And then we have clashes, which are just, basically weird stuff. Great for that sort of scary, hellish sound. Special. Episodic were those different rhythms. Rhythmic. Visible, at first I didn't understand this, but basically it's only going to choose samples that are within range because it's so many, right? So no matter what I put this and I click visible, it's just going to choose anything that is here. If I move it down, it's going to be what's visible here. And then walk, it's just basically going to move one step up or down randomly depending on where it is right now. So if I click it right again, it's just gonna, go up and down and choose something that is nearby. So you get a lot of random cool sounds. It's actually a great way to very quickly create interesting sounds just for the background, anything that you need. And I find that this is actually also a really good sketch tool, because even though I like the sound of the sopranos and altos, tenors using the legato, it sounds much more realistic. This can actually sound very good because there's movement going on in the choir, and I can just quickly sketch something out. And in most cases, it works really nicely. I did something quickly there without thinking. It was improvised, but it works. Nobody's going to think too much about if I was using the legato or not. A composer might hear that if you listen carefully, or somebody's working with choir. But otherwise, just to get a sketch out, this is a fantastic tool, and I'm really happy they included it. So what do I think about this library? Well, it's a little bit hard to compare to other libraries because I find this quite unique. And for example, other popular choir libraries tend to focus a little bit on that epicness, the big forte fortissimo, and they usually have sort of a syllable word engine in there, and this choir doesn't have that. So you think, what's good about it then? Well, it offers other things that people like me really enjoy. More evolving, interesting, emotional sounds. You can really hold down a chord and a note, and it's interesting, it's going somewhere. There are natural waverings and things going on that a real choir would produce. But it's not just like British drama toolkit where you hold down a few chords and a note and it's hard to do intricate melodies. This is still a very flexible library. You can play pretty much whatever you want and get a great result. And beautiful legatos, probably one of the best legatos I've heard, but also interesting chords that lend themselves really well to media composing, both in the front and in the back. But I also want to say it's really versatile. I find that it does excellent older choral works, like the one I showed you, Palestrina, for example. It also works really well with modern stuff. And some of the patches, the clashes, for example, I thought first I didn't know if that was a good idea or really, so useful because I could do it myself, right? But it did something to me. I tried new interesting chords that I haven't thought about before. So is this library for you? I think if you're a beginner and you just want to try out a choir or something, then I wouldn't, considering the cost and the size. And perhaps if you want the more epic choir and syllables, then this wouldn't be either something for you. But if you want a very versatile choir that goes a little deeper, that you can actually create some interesting stuff just with the voice itself, this library can really stand on its own, then this is an excellent library and probably one of the better ones I've tried. Just have to realize the approach of this library, how it sounds a little bit different than other libraries I've tried. And I just remember right now, if you're watching this video just as I'm releasing it, Spitfire is actually having a sale right now for a few more days where you can get this library a little bit cheaper, bundled up with some other things. So you might want to check that out. Anyway, that's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to support me in making more reviews like this and other videos and courses in the future, then please consider hitting a like, subscribing, writing a comment, recommending other people, and perhaps become a patron or give me a coffee. Thank you very much. Hope you write a lot of music, and until next time.